Hey guys, welcome to a new series here on the DCAP that I'm going to be doing, and it's going to be a race review of all the cup races throughout the season. And obviously we're going to start this one off with the 2019 Daytona 500. The 2019 Daytona 500 was definitely better than I'm sure a lot of people expected. It was better than I expected after what we saw in the Clash and the duels. There was only maybe like a couple laps of single file racing in the Daytona 500, and that was luckily stopped by Kyle Larson cutting down a left rear tire and bringing out the caution. And after that, the drivers raced either double file or three wide like they did at the end for 95% of the race. And that was just a fantastic show for the fans. The ratings went up this year, definitely a lot better than everyone expected. And I just want to get into the rundown of like the stats of this race, so you get an idea of how this race was. So the race actually ended up running 207 laps with all the wrecks at the end. We got into NASCAR overtime. We had 2 red flags. We had 12 cautions for 47 laps. The time of the race was 3 hours 45 minutes. A lot of that was at the end. The last 10 laps took about an hour and a half with the 2 red flags and the 3 cautions. We had the average speed of the race was 137.44 miles per hour. Your pole speed with William Byron was 194.305 miles per hour. The margin of victory was 138 one-thousandths of a second. There were 15 lead changes in this race with 10 different leaders, I believe. Just fantastic racing altogether. It really started out well. The field stayed double file, and everyone kind of expected the field to fizzle out single file at the beginning, but that just never happened. And I feel like everyone had this sense of urgency, and you expected just the field to settle down, and it just never happened. So it was great to see that. And when you come off of 4, just knowing that the field is gonna stay double file, it was just a great sight to see. I'm sure everyone at the race definitely enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it on TV. The broadcast was actually really well done, and the commercials were on the upside. A little too many commercials. We did miss the wreck with Kurt Busch and Ricky Stenhouse, which collected, I believe, Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace. Austin Dillon spun in that too. Then it kind of settled down, and then we saw the Larson spin. And your 2 stage winners were Kyle Busch in stage 1 and Ryan Blaney in stage 2. Those two, Blaney would become a non-factor at the end because he got caught up in the first big one. But before the first big one, we saw Brad Keselowski have something happen to his car where he spun, and that came right after Eric Jones was running third in that JGR 1-2-3 line, and he started losing fuel pressure, and that kind of stacked up the inside line because cars like William Byron and many more on the inside kind of got shuffled to the back. I think Byron went from like 6th to 25th because of it. And then a couple laps later, Brad Keselowski spun by himself off turn 4. And I think the most bizarre wreck we saw was coming on the pit road when Cody Ware and BJ McLeod just destroyed each other, and they just flew through the pits when their cars out of control and collected Tyler Reddick, Jimmy Johnson, and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And that was a huge turning point in that race because it kind of got crazy after that. we come to the end. That happened on lap 160. Yeah, 40 to go. And after that, it kind of got crazy because Larson spun on 182. Then Brad Keselowski spun on 188. And then 192, the big one happened. 21 cars were involved. And it started when Paul Menard gave Matt Dibenedetto a push, and he was too far on the right side of that bumper. And Dibenedetto spun, and literally the whole field behind him had nowhere to go and just piled in. It was massive how much, wow, it was just incredible, that wreck. Just nowhere to go for, the 19 other guys, behind those two, Dibenedetto and Menard. And it definitely it got crazy at the end of the Daytona 500. It seems to always happen, but people are doing things that they won't usually do at the end of the race because it's the Daytona 500. You're not going to settle for anything less than a win. This is a points race, but you're not racing for the points here. You could leave Daytona, it's checkers or records. I mean, you'd rather finish 40th trying to get the win than settle for, second or third saying you got a good points day. Even Joey Logano said at the end of the race, he's like, yeah, we got some good points out of this race, but who am I kidding? We're not here for points. So Joey Logano was not happy with fourth, and you could tell Kyle Busch wasn't happy with second. Kyle Busch has been trying for this race his whole career, and he still has yet to win it. He doesn't want to end up like Tony Stewart. Kyle Busch has had so many chances, and he still has yet to win the Daytona 500. So we move on to lap 196, where we had the incident where Stenhouse just kind of threw it 3 wide and into Harvick and Larson. That was a bonehead move, in my opinion. It's nothing, less expected from Ricky Stenhouse. He kind of did this, set up a reputation for himself last year at Daytona for causing incidents, and it's just nothing different with him, and it's unfortunate. I mean, there was no reason to make that move. There were so many things he could have done. He could have went to the outside. He could have let off and helped Larson, but he decided to throw it in the Harvick car. Just unfortunate. And Chase Elliott, Alex Bowman, Ty Dillon, Brad Keselowski all got involved in it as well. So then we restart on lap 200, so the first overtime. And then Clint Bowyer tried making a move on the backstretch into turn 3 on Michael McDowell. He gets to the inside of him, and he thought he was clear, pulled up in front of McDowell. McDowell's bumper, was still there, and he turned, and then Clint Bowyer turned right, and he wasn't clear, and it caused another big wreck. And it involved, obviously, Bowyer, McDowell, Chase Elliott, Landon Castle, William Byron, Jamie McMurray, Brad Keselowski, and Brendan Gaughan all in turn 3. So all 3 of those wrecks at the end all happened basically in the same spot. And it was just amazing to see how they could not get back up to speed after that until they had only about 5 to 6 competitive cars at the end of this race. This race had 3 guys not involved in a wreck. Your top 2 finishers of Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch, and the 10th place finisher Ross Chastain. Great run for Ross Chastain. A top 10 for him in that 15 car is definitely something to, be proud of. And I think the biggest heartbreak of the race was Matt Dibenedetto. Dibenedetto led so many laps, and all he had to show for it was getting wrecked with 8 to go. That's just unfortunate for him, and I think he exceeded expectations in this race. And I would not be surprised to see Matt Dibenedetto, do something, especially on these restricted plate races. He's always been good at these tracks, and now he's got a more competitive car. It'll be fun to see how he does at the mile and a halves, because I think he's got a lot to prove in that 95 car, in that alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. He actually led the most laps of this race, I believe. He led 49 laps, and to lead the most laps and finish, basically He's 20th in the points after the race, and that's just unfortunate for Matt Dibenedetto, because he did so well and finishes 28th. That's definitely not where he deserved to finish. Definitely deserved, he could have won that race, especially with his Joe Gibbs, affiliate teammates up there. He definitely could have helped them out. And one more thing, I think it's crazy how the Fords were definitely, the top of the town this whole week. Everyone expected the Fords to dominate this race, get in control. And Hendrick and Gibbs, two unlikely teams to work together, made an alliance during that race, and they worked together to take down the Fords. They knew they couldn't take them down by themselves, and at the front at one point you had three of the Gibbs guys. You had Hamlin, Eric Jones, and Kyle Busch, and you had the four Hendrick cars all working together in the top 7 in a single file line in front of the pack. It was incredible to see two unlikely pairings work together and actually get it done. It was great work for both those teams. I'm a Denny Hamlin fan, mostly a Joe Gibbs fan, but Denny Hamlin's my #1 driver now. And, obviously I was excited to see the finish of that race. It was a great race overall. I'd give it about a 9 out of 10. Definitely better than, recent 500s. So this is the end of the race review for the 2019 Daytona 500. I'll be back after Atlanta for another race review. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Comment anything you would like me to talk about. Any awards you'd like me to give. Anything, to help me improve these videos. I'd love to hear your suggestions. So thanks guys for listening, and I'll see you guys next week after Atlanta.